'em up, lay it down just like Matt and Mari. Wrestling little RHAPUp's gonna make it sorry. Feeling like The Rock cause I'm driving in Ferraris. And we coming every weekend, it's feeling like a party. Will Ric Flair, showing out like Bianca Belair, Best podcast, fluctuate in the air, Roman Reigns and we win it, don't care, No cap. Throw 'em up, lay it down just like Matt and Mari. Wrestling little RHAPUp's gonna make it sorry. Feeling like The Rock cause I'm driving in Ferraris. And we coming every weekend, it's feeling like a party.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Wrestling RHAPUp podcast. I'm your host, Mari Forth, and with me, as always, my co-host, the Isaiah Swerve Scott, to my Keith Lee, Mr. Matt Scott. Matt, what's going on?
Yes, cousin Scott. Name, right? Cousin Scott. We love Swerve it. No. Yeah, and you know,
Swerve
like
Strickland?
You
know, I'm sorry, y'all.
Swerve
I just
Matt Scott.
Names.
Swerve Matt Scott
there we
is
go.
Here in the building, here with the one and only Mari Forth Lee.
Yeah.
Limitless Mari?
Limitless
Lee Mari?
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out how to work your name into Keith Lee's. But anyway, I'll keep working on that. Mari, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. It's been like a good week. I mean, feels like one of those filler weeks. I cannot imagine that in between having Money in the Bank at the beginning of the month and SummerSlam in like a week, it's like we still got a filler week. Like, how does WWE manage to like make things semi-boring like in a 3-week span?
I mean, I don't know if I would call it filler. I just feel like that's what they have going on, and it's not that interesting. So. There was some stuff. That's what I was trying to say.
Stuff is happening.
And so we'll talk about it. Stuff did happen. There is always stuff happening. That's the one thing you have to appreciate about WWE, AEW, NXT 2.0. Always stuff happening, right? We can never
be happening.
That's right. Not always good stuff, but that's why we're here.
So how about you, Matt? How was your week?
Oh, no complaints. You know, busy week. Lots of cool things. People might have seen me if you're a Rob Has a Podcast Network listener on the Big Brother recap this week. And Mari, earlier in the day, was also talking with Taryn Armstrong about Big Brother. And so I'm a little bitter that we didn't get to talk about Big Brother this week
together,
Mari, together, but whatever, we'll deal with that issue later. But yeah, good. I can't complain, and I'm excited for today's episode. I feel very relaxed and ready for today's episode.
I agree. It's a very like low stakes, low pressure type of day,
low key kind of week, actually.
yeah. Like, all right.
Which we need sometimes. Believe me.
Sometimes you need, and. Yeah, the news hasn't been too crazy lately, so
no.
Let's just get into it. Let's bring on our amazing guest this week.
What? We have a guest, Mari?
We do have a guest.
Wow. Well, I should probably introduce them, right?
That would be ideal.
Okay. Well, making his way to the podcast, he's a dragon slayer, a bandit, a play cousin, not good but necessary, and too sweet to be sour, feeling his power. He's a Jedi level geek, a teacher, preacher, pastor, and faith community leader who you may know from his work with Jesus, justice, and joy. He brings masters in divinity and business administration, and his experiences leading the friendliest church in town to the Wrestling RHAPUp. Please welcome the pastor, the reverend, or you could just call him Solomon, Mr. Solomon Missouri. With the hat on right there. Bam.
Yes.
Bam. Posing. Fingers
I
up.
would have more bodily gestures, but I'm in the car. There's only so much I can do. So this is like just
think
of it as my Randy Orton. Okay?
Randy Orton.
Think of it as my Randy Orton. Thank you all for having me. I really appreciate it.
And thank you for wearing a tie to the Wrestling RHAPUp and a hat. And
I am actually at church right now.
Ooh.
Yeah, I'm sitting in front of a church right now.
We've never had that before. Making history. Just like WWE.
We are having
as
breakthroughs.
You know.
These are breakthroughs happening right now.
That's right. This is a Hall of Fame episode right here already. So thank you so much for being here, Solomon. We appreciate you.
Thank you for joining us. And I was kind of saying in like pre-production, like it's so amazing to have you on because everybody knows, or everybody should know who listened to this podcast, that I stay on Twitter. We both stay on Twitter, really. And I call you Twitter's favorite pastor because I love following you. Your threads are hilarious. You really bring power to, faith, but also like inclusivity and just humor of it all. And it really feels like it really just feels like a new generation of faith leaders. And I'm just so glad you're on here. Plus, like you said yourself, you're a big old nerd who loves wrestling.
It's true.
Like best of both worlds.
Yep.
You had us at jump.
I am a pastor in Durham, North Carolina. But before I was even pastoring, I have always been a wrestling nerd. My grandmother introduced me to wrestling when we were watching like Memphis wrestling, Florida wrestling, Georgia wrestling. She got me turned on to WCW. So like back in the day, I don't know why she actually enjoyed wrestling, but she got us turned on to it. She loved the Von Erichs. Yeah. What I found to be interesting is that a lot of Black women enjoy wrestling and are introduced to wrestling through their like mothers or grandmothers.
Yes, many of our guests have come on and said that. It is astounding.
Yeah, and so my mom didn't like wrestling per se, but she enjoyed Hulk Hogan. Now, that was before Hulk Hogan. Right. Before we knew Hulk Hogan. So we would like she would watch WWE if he was on. And so it has always like been a passion, something that has the surrealness of it, the artistry of it, the storytelling, the emotion of it, the pageantry. All of those things are things that I'm an exuberant kind of over the top person, so it all speaks to me. So I love wrestling. I love going to shows before COVID. I just love being in and actually as the landscape and fans have changed, I've started to enjoy the fandom more.
Wow.
That makes sense.
Yeah. And it's cool because like it is evolving. It's getting more diverse, but also I think like you could find whatever pocket of fandom you want to find. If you want the messy fandom, you could have that. If you want the Mari fandom, you could have that right here on the Wrestling Half. All that. So, and there's the whole range, right? And so, one thing I want to ask though is I think a lot of people don't like think of a pastor and pro wrestling in the same sentence unless you're talking about like Brother Devon or like whatever wrestling gimmicks we've seen along the way. Like, I don't know I'm curious how you think about like that together, because it might surprise people that we have a like you in your in your role in this podcast.
I think that's one of the faulty conceptions about like ministry and pastoring and preaching all together. What we're doing is what we do in ministry is look to piece together the narratives of life. And so we want to use our words like a promo. Right. And so what did the people always say? Effectively wrestlers are trying to sell you a ticket, right? Before they even lay hands on one another. They want to be able to encourage you to come out and see this thing, watch evil be defeated by good, watch the varied emotions that we have portrayed through, the stories in the four-sided ring. And so the heartbreak, the disappointment, the anxiety, the stress, all of those things navigate through our shared emotions and shared experiences. And so when I look at somebody like Eddie Kingston, you're seeing the intersection of real versus prescribed, right? And so what I'm effectively trying to do in ministry is bridge those two pieces of real versus prescribed, and find hope and strength through them. And the best
Love
wrestling,
that.
like the best wrestling,
Yeah.
helps you find hope and strength.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Right? The best wrestling tells these stories about underdogs who overcome. Daniel
Mhm.
Bryan.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
The best wrestling tells stories about people who come back. CM Punk.
Mm-hmm.
The best wrestling tells stories about folks who struggle with issues and find a way to overcome their issues. Adam Page, right?
Yeah.
So the best wrestling, and I don't mean to just talk about all AEW people, but
Yeah.
the best wrestling finds a way to forge the human connection so that we might be able to find our story. And so that's what ministry does as well. We want us to be able to find our stories within these cacophony of stories that are all around us.
Wow.
I love that. And I
Love
would
it.
just say, like, I love that, especially because when it comes to any fandom, it's so easy for people outside of it to kind of trivialize it or simplify it. And you touched on so many things of why I love wrestling, because it is so, like, I was thinking about this earlier in the week. It is insane that wrestling even exists. Like, I understand, dating shows on reality TV. Like, I get them. I'm like, okay, I could wrap my head around this. With wrestling, it's bananas, and that's probably why we love to talk about it. And there's always more to say each week, right?
Yeah. It's
Well, I mean, go ahead. I'm
sorry. Yeah, no, it's okay. I was just saying it's effectively live stunt performance, and that's the thing that people don't. I think people who don't understand or get like wrestling as an art, they don't understand how hard it truly is for these people to be doing what they're doing, to go out there, memorize a script, be able to deliver it in audience while there's all these things going on, and then to also put on a match that, either you're doing it on the fly or if it's laid out, no matter what. This is like choreographed fighting that has to also look real. And it's so funny how, like, you feel like you get a lot of armchair, like, oh, look at that botch, it's just like, but let's not focus on the mess ups, and let's focus on what's being presented to us. And honestly, I can't do half of what these people do. So the last thing I'm gonna do is like really try and go at them for their actual ability. I can definitely talk about the storytelling and how, it's not compelling, but that's not the performer's fault most of the time. So I agree, Matt. It's really truly is like almost amazing when you actually really sit and think what these people are doing live in front of our eyes.
Right. And wrestling is one of the last art forms that is in the legacy, in the tradition of Shakespearean art.
Yeah.
Right.
I
So like, you're telling this story before people live, and
theater.
right, it's literally theater. And so the best examples of theater taking life, give you all kinds of, I mean, we've all, cried when something, emotional has happened in wrestling, or, we've been terrified of pain. And that's what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to reconnect you with your own emotions.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
This is going to be a great
real.
day. I can already feel it already.
Right?
All right. So let's move on to a little bit of news this week. This was really interesting. All right. Is the PG era dead? We got some reporting that Raw is planning to move to TV 14. Now, it was originally reported. I gotta see if I can find that original report. But it was originally reported that Raw was planning to move to TV 14 on the July 18th episode, which will be this coming week's Raw. It was then later they backtracked and said, they are still considering going to TV 14, but they just don't know when. So very interesting. So I don't even know if that's like a confirmation or a walk back, but there is a chance that we might get a TV 14 Raw again. Solomon, what do you think of that?
effectively, it really doesn't matter if the creative stays as lackluster as it's been over the last
Ooh,
really 5 to 7 years.
good
Um,
point.
so I mean, you can tell compelling stories if we had a G rating. Um,
I
the
like that.
issue is not the level of maturity or the level of um, or the TV rating that you're actually creating, um, or have a fishbowl to create in. But
Mm-hmm.
rather the issue is like, are you going to actually create in it?
Mm-hmm.
Right? You don't. I don't need a. I don't need effectively a TV 14 rating takes you from being able to not say curse words to being able to
Yep.
say curse words.
Yep.
That's all it does.
Blood too, I
Um,
think.
Mm,
I mean, yeah,
What?
but I
Yeah.
don't need
I
blood.
don't. Same.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
I'm okay without it. I mean, again, I don't have any problem if it calls for it per se. So, for
Mhm.
example, if it's a grudge and it calls for it, and it needs to go there for
Right.
storytelling purposes. But let's be honest, there has not been or been seldom stories that have been written not even well but competently in the
Hmm.
WWE that actually made you feel as if you needed a Hell in a Cell,
Yep.
because the feuds have just not been that high. They have It's not been that aggressive, and so um, a TV 14 is not going to fix creative that they're not challenged to adjust.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, that's real. And you know what? You mentioned we just mentioned blood, and one of our listeners, Derek, asked, "How do you feel about the current level of blood?" And I'm happy to not have a ton of blood in wrestling. I was watching AEW, and I feel like there's like a little bit too much. Like they go back to that blood well a little bit too often. But there also have been a ton of times, and I think of WWE history with this, where they have been able to tell really effective stories with it,
Mhm.
with certain people. And so, you know what? Like, I think if they could tell the stories well, then that's really powerful. And you know what? Just to kind of put things into context, they had a TV 14 rating basically from the Attitude Era. So
Mhm.
1997 all the way to 2008, and
2008.
then
Mhm.
we shifted. And so it should be interesting to see what happens to wrestling in 2022 with a rating that obviously is the same as what they had from 97 to 08, because it is a much different world. So we're not going to
Mhm.
be seeing the same stuff that they did from 97 to 08, of course. So I kind of wonder how they would use that rating
Yeah.
to change their program to make it edgier or more mature.
It was initially reported by Andrew Zarian on the Matt Men
Yeah,
podcast. He
I love
reported
him.
it on Thursday. Yeah. But the editor's note that came back, it says that like an earlier version of the story misstated that WWE Raw will be TV rated 14 beginning the show on July 18th. In fact, WWE is just considering a change for future programs, and the rating for Monday's show will be unchanged. So it to me, I don't know if that's saying like, oh, we're going to TV 14, but it's going to be at a later date. Or I'm wondering if they just did like, I feel like I distinctly remember that there have been like certain episodes where they might just have like, oh, this episode is rated TV 14. Like
Mhm.
and then it's just like, and then it goes back. Like if they'll pick out like certain episodes, if they know what the script is going to be for the night, and they just be like, this one, TV 14. So I don't know, but very interesting news that came out on Thursday, and we'll see how that goes. Uh, like Solomon said, my hopes aren't that high if we're not getting
Oh,
compelling stories. Yeah, if we're not getting
well,
those
I
stories
mean,
that make us, yeah, then what truly is the point?
yeah, I don't think that, just to second what you're saying, I don't think that the rating means that the program is going to be any better or any. I mean, maybe it'll be a little different, but I don't think it's going to scratch the itches that we have for our needs in wrestling. So,
Yeah,
you need like different writers, you need different people making decisions to do that. So
yeah.
I hope people aren't getting their hopes up about the TV 14 rating.
Mhm.
I know people are, so.
Well, I
Yeah.
mean, and then one thing especially, you can't have a 76, 77-year-old man in charge of the creative process and expect it to be any better. And it's not because of his age, it's because of his intent. He does not intend to write good television. That's why it's bad.
Yeah.
And he has no taste, but that's a whole other story.
Well, he has taste, but his tastes are so outdated. All he wants to do is he wants the divas to come back. He wants to do bra and panty magic. This is his. Literally, look at his scandal.
Yeah,
his scandal is living the gimmick.
Yeah. Oh no, that's
effectively what his scandal is, and so there needs to be a renaissance of creative when it comes to the WWE, and it begins with divesting from McMahon as the center of creative,
and his cronies too. His cronies too. His yes men.
It's the same people.
I
mean, John Laurinaitis is a whole other story, but Bruce Pritchard, Kevin Dunn as the producer for the past however many decades, it's always coming back to the same people. And it's almost like, and I've heard this before, so I want to give credit to other podcasts and people, but they keep saying Vince McMahon only knows 5 people. It's the same 5 people he keeps hiring in. And honestly, the only way that they end up not being in the process is if they pass away, for instance. And it's okay, well then I guess Vince can't have them leading stuff anymore. So
it's those consistent yes men that he keeps around. Meanwhile, the writers and the turnover for their writing staff is so high. I always think about that. I think about Kenise Mobley on a daily. I always talk about what happened with her and how she really got pushed out before she was ever able to make an impact. I think about Kaz, how he was working really well with the New Day and then ended up getting pushed out, and then he goes back to the Masked Man show and gives us all of his insights and stuff like that. And of course, these are the Black writers that we know about. And I think if I remember correctly, they had pushed out that women's writer, the one who had won an Emmy for her soap opera. I cannot remember her name for the life of me. But their writer turnover is so ridiculous. They're there for a few months and then they're gone. And so all of those new ideas that you possibly can get from a fresh new faces, they die in their tracks. You know what I'm saying? So it's just so unfortunate. So unless we feel like they need to address the calls coming inside the house first and foremost. Address that, and then we'll talk about more curse words or more blood, I guess. I don't know.
Because it's a situation where the meal has to be good in order to put the sauce on top. And so
there it is.
like the TV 14 stuff, that's sauce on top. But if the meal's not done, then you can leave the sauce out. You can't just. It's not a sauce delivery system. It's a meal delivery system. So I'm trying to eat the food, and the sauce just makes it taste better. But if the food don't taste good, foundationally, then you can leave the sauce off.
Yeah, I love that.
Why am I licking my lips now?
I know. Am I hungry now?
I think I am. Yeah. Wow. But that's so real. That's a good good analogy there too.
So next up, social media was kind of talking about it yesterday or all the time because she is the conversation. Mercedes Varnado, aka Sasha Banks. We have just been notified that her agent is notifying all non-wrestling appearances. She'll only be making non-wrestling appearances until January 1st of 2023, and that her asking price for Comic Cons and stuff like that is currently $30,000 for appearances. And I don't know, but again, maybe it's just because she's the conversation, but for some reason this figure sparked a lot of debate online. Oh, does Sasha, I'm gonna use her ring name here. Does she deserve to be paid $30,000? Oh, that could be her price. I don't know who's gonna pay it. I mean, she's already booked for she's booked as Mercedes Varnado. Jeez Louise. At the C2E2 or something con. I don't know what kind of
Sounds like a
con it
spinal
is.
disc.
Yeah, it's like in Chicago, I think, but she's booked. She's staying booked. If y'all might not have that money, but somebody does, and they're paying her currently. So, Matt, what did you think? Did you see this discourse
Yeah.
online?
Yeah, and first of all, I'll say that you want to put out an asking price that is something that you like, where you actually want to show up for that amount, and that might sound very basic, but she is in such high demand. Like, honestly, if Mercedes Sasha said, "Oh, I'm going to charge $100,000 for my first wrestling appearance after WWE," like she could do that,
She could do whatever she wants.
But I think it's interesting. Number one, I'll just say I think it's funny that people are weighing in on this when they don't necessarily. Well, they definitely, most of them don't have an understanding of like booking fees and how much people charge. I will tell you, and I will not name names, but in the work that I do in the climate world, and bringing in speakers, I reached out to this like notable person, and their speaking agent for like an interview or something like that. And in person, he for an hour wanted to charge like $60,000 plus first class like accommodations all around. Virtually, he would have charged $35,000 for an hour. And he's just talking. So look at her, where I know she has more followers, more reach, like all that stuff. $30,000 to not only show up, like sign autographs, do whatever she does, but I mean, I guess we don't even know what she would charge with wrestling. But if it is $30,000, like it's her body, and that she should charge more than that, honestly, if you ask me. So that's how I think. I think that she's totally justified in it, and it sounds reasonable to me. If we could scrap together $30,000, Mari, let's get Sasha.
Let's get Sasha. Oh my God.
Yeah.
If I could scrap together $30,000, I love her, but it wouldn't be going to her. I truly, truly do. Solomon, any thoughts on this?
Well, one, I think that you have to take into account two things. One, the direction of the pushback concerning her fees, like who is saying that she is not worthy of, meritorious of, deserving of this fee, right? So that's the first thing. Like, what the direction is coming from? Like, why do you care what somebody is charging?
Yeah,
they're not charging you. So so there's a third thing. So first, where it's coming from. Second, who is this person? Like, who is Mercedes Vardos? She is not a C-level talent.
There we go.
She is not a B-level talent. She's a needle mover.
Yes.
Like, what she does matters. You don't see, other WWE superstars on Hot Ones, or on doing the ice bath thing with Kevin Hart. You don't see them on Star Wars.
Wars, yep.
Right? But who do you see on Star Wars? Mercedes.
Yep.
Right? And so that's not even talking about her in-ring qualities. That's just saying what she brings to the conversation overall. But then in ring, she is quite possibly one of the greatest women wrestlers that has ever performed. I don't say that lightly.
I agree.
She's like 5'2", but you believe that she is capable and able of pretty much standing toe-to-toe with any person that they bring before her. Why is that? It's not because she's huge. She's not very muscular. She's rail thin.
Yeah.
Right? But what she does is she's honed into who she is, right? So, like, you don't get Bianca Belair without Sasha Banks. Right? You don't, let's go further. You don't get Bayley without Sasha Banks.
Okay.
You don't get Charlotte without Sasha Banks.
Yeah.
For sure.
Right. So every person that we love and that's heralded and lifted up as like a great wrestler or whatever, do it without Sasha Banks. You can't. right? And then the final part of it is, this is a question that is directed towards a black woman.
Uh,
Okay.
yeah.
And why is there pushback concerning a black woman being able to make or be fairly compensated
Right.
in the environment of entertainment?
Mm-hmm.
Like when you know that historically there is a precedent for black women being under considered, under resourced, like underpaid,
Underpaid. Yep.
then you got to ask yourself, okay, so why do you care that this black woman is being accurately and fairly compensated? So those are all the things that we have to take into consideration, because like I don't know how much other celebrities, stars make for an appearance, but I know that it was a problem to Sasha Banks, and that overall is kind of troubling to me.
Very troubling.
Yeah, and you know what? To like add to that, I mean, even just hearing what you're saying, Solomon, even if let's say her asking price was, it's not too high, but if it was too high, why do you feel the need to bring that up and to target her and to attack her for that? Like everything you said about black women being underpaid, as we know. And then there's like the blackness within that, the womanhood within that, and then of course like the magic combination where black women are not only underpaid but devalued in so many ways. It is interesting that people do feel like they need to push back and knock her down and try to not, whatever they're trying to do with that. The other thing though that that I would say is that, like Mari, if we were able to scrap together $30,000 for Sasha Banks, we could earn every single dollar of that back and more, tenfold.
True.
I mean, I don't know about tenfold, but we could definitely earn all of that back just from having her. And so if you just look at it on paper, like Sasha Banks will make you that money back and more. It's worth it. The example I gave of the speaker I was thinking of, who I was trying to book before, he was not going to earn a single dollar, maybe a few dollars, but really, and so it's like, you have to consider that too. Like, why would she have a low asking price when she's going to be bringing in tons of money for whoever she's working for? So she might as well get her slice rather than make money for other people, probably like other white male wrestling promoters or white male convention organizers, because that's who's leading a lot of these things. So I mean, good for her. I'm happy for her, and I hope she books those appearances to get that money.
And another aspect is that people like to give black women whatever they want to give them, versus saying, okay, versus the black woman saying, okay, this is my fee.
Yep.
Yeah.
They want to say, okay, well, no, this is what we'll give you as an act of benevolence or as an act of charity, versus saying, no, this is who I am. These are my KSAs. And this is what it cost. And that's just it.
Yep. It's always that you need to be grateful for what you get. In every aspect of life, when it comes to black womanhood, it's you have to be thankful for what you get, and it always it doesn't sit right with me, and this is why I love this story of like, if she's gonna set her fee, that's her fee, and we know it. Period. That's it. She's also setting boundaries, because, like we said, her appearances are that she's signing on for our non-wrestling appearances. And not only that, like I said, at the C2E2 Comic-Con, Chicago Comic-Con, she is appearing there as Mercedes Varnado, with aka Sasha Banks, but she is there promoting Star Wars, from what all I've seen the promotions for. So she's there as herself, promoting her acting, and it is not it's not going to be related to Sasha Banks from all intents and purposes that I've seen. Like, if you go to the signing, the pictures that are available for the signing are all Star Wars or headshots of her, and you will more than likely be getting the Mercedes signature and not the Sasha Banks signature. So I love that for her. Because it's one step closer for her to be able to maintain her own power and sensibility for where she wants to take her career, and that next step. And she's doing a great job by actually not saying anything. Again, since the walkout, Sasha and Naomi have not said a single direct word about the situation, and yet consistently, especially for Sasha. They've been trending for weeks now.
Mm-hmm.
When Sasha said she was the conversation, she was not lying. If she sneezes, it's an online debate. You know, I think I saw a picture of her and Bayley went to a concert somewhere, and it blew up. Picture blew up. People talking about, she's living her best life, or people like, oh, that's what she doesn't deserve. She walked out and now she's just going to concerts. I guess going to concerts is better than working. And it's just like,
right? What?
Y'all
Well,
just
I
have
mean,
the time, I guess.
it
Like,
is. Actually, going to concerts is better than working, but that's why it's
truly.
called work. So
Yeah. So it is just funny. And I thought that was a great point. Thank you, Matt, for bringing it up. That like, if we had Sasha Banks on this wrestling podcast talking about wrestling that she has not talked about for like going on 2 months now, when could you imagine Rob's face? We would break our network's like,
oh my God, yes.
website.
Yes, wait, let's talk to the boss of the network, Rob
We would
Sesternino, right now, who's listening. Rob, get us that $30,000.
Yes.
And Sasha will have her here, and we're gonna make the network. It'll be the Sasha network from
Sasha.
now on.
Sasha has a podcast network. Oh
No
my
complaints.
gosh. And on the flip side, Naomi posted some vacation pictures. Matt, can you walk us through this? Because you were like really like updating me on her. Like, her
First of
Twitter
all, just so you know, Mari, I have my tweet notifications on for Naomi. So like right when and Sasha, so right when either of them tweet anything, it's going on. So what I just thought it was funny, and I'm laughing a little bit right now. If you're watching us on YouTube, you can see the tweet pulled up, and she posted anything that costs you your piece is too expensive. And it was a whole, but I just was laughing because it was a saga where like first she posted the tweet and I saw it and I sent it to Mari, but then she deleted it because there was a typo, and then she posted it again, but there was another typo, and so she deleted that one, and then she finally posted it again. So it was like a whole thing, but she got there.
That's so funny.
And she is. She's on the, I don't know where she is actually in this in some pool. Possibly her pool.
Somewhere.
Possibly
That's
it's
a
her
nice
pool.
bathing suit.
She's owning the pool. So, and drinking maybe it's a I think she's
Looks
drinking
like
a vodka soda.
margarita. That looks like a margarita to me.
Oh, maybe it's a margarita.
Look at
but
us.
It looks good. So
Yeah.
we'll zoom in. We'll find out. We'll ask our sources.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So Naomi just recently came back to Twitter and has been, just posting like fun vacation stuff, fun family stuff, like sporadically. So we still don't know what's going on with her. Of course, we don't know what's going on with Sasha, but again, we're going to keep you guys updated as much as we find out, and we wholeheartedly support anything that they decide to do. So we're just waiting. And then finally, just to quickly wrap up the news, Ava Raine made her WWE debut at an NXT live event. If you're wondering who Ava Raine is, she is The Rock's daughter. Yes, Simone Johnson went through a name change. I think it was like a year or two earlier this year. Her name is Ava Raine. Apparently, from the promo she cut at the NXT live event, she was calling herself the Final Girl, which to me seems like a reference. I think that's a horror movie reference, like the final girl. I don't know. Sources from the event say that it seemed like she was working heel, but it was kind of funny because online, some fan who was not there at the NXT event basically said, I don't know, my gut feeling. Let me actually pull the. I have the exact
pull it up.
quote here.
Pull it up. As you do that, you could see this lovely picture if you're watching on YouTube, with probably her. I'm hoping her biggest fan, The Rock here, and it is. Mari, read this tweet for us. What was the fan responding to, just to like set it up?
So the fan was just responding to the person who had posted. They had posted a picture of her in the ring, and then they just said, "Oh, she makes a promo." They gave like a brief description of the promo. As of right now, I haven't seen any video of the promo. So literally,
Right.
all we had was the picture and a person describing it, and they described it very levelly. Um, then we had somebody reply to that person and said, I don't have a good feeling about this at all. For some reason, I have this gut feeling that wrestling isn't going to catch on with her. She's been in the PC a long time, which is the first red flag. She's definitely wrong. And again, that person commented this, not seeing the promo, not being there live, literally just like they said, their gut feeling. She retweeted them and said, try a probiotic that usually helps with gut health.
Ooh.
And that's what I saw. I, of
That's
course,
true.
was cracking up. Unfortunately, like another fan chimed in and said, hope you do well, but take the criticism and use it to get better. No shade. This is when I decided to comment. And I said to that fan, the criticism of someone who is criticizing her who hasn't seen her work or heard her promo, just going off their quote unquote gut feeling, no thanks. She doesn't need to listen to haters. And the reason why I can quote all of that is because my tweet and those other tweets were used in a article on Sportskeeda about her debut. The title of the article is The Rock's Daughter, Ava Raine, hilariously lashes out at WWE fan following criticism. So I jumped into the fray. I ended up in the news. That's what I do. But I think it's the story. The message still stands. Why are we criticizing or saying, oh, we don't have a good feeling when we still have not, the audience has not been introduced to her. She has not been on NXT TV. You know, she's been in the PC for 2 years. Keep in mind, she's 18. She's 18 when she was 18 when she signed. She is now 20. So she's been working. And then on top of that, unfortunately, she's had, I think, 2 or 3 knee injuries. Injuries that needed surgery of some sort. So she is also recovering from injuries. Also, guess what's also been happening the last 2 years? A freaking pandemic. So let's not use the time that she's been in the PC against her, especially since there are people who were in the Performance Center for like 10 years before they debuted. Like, let's be real here. So I'm definitely excited for Ava Raine. Any thoughts on Ava Raine here, Solomon?
You know, you don't judge anything before it's time. So
Yeah.
I mean, I'm confident or more confident in the NXT brand, even in their what they call the rainbow era of the NXT brand.
2.0.
I'm still more confident with their ability to write a cognizant story than I am SmackDown or Raw. So that's one thing. And then 2, like, she comes from good stock, so it'll be fine. But then the other thing about it is, like, I mean, people are judging, but I think it's coming from the place of, oh, she's The Rock's daughter.
Yeah.
Versus, oh, this is, you know, what she's able to do. And so I would just be more interested in giving her like the benefit of the doubt. Now, granted, if it sucks, it sucks. But
we don't know.
We don't know that yet. I mean, and like, in all honesty, if somebody signs up for something at 18, like, let them develop. Like, I didn't even know who I was until maybe like 30.
Right.
Yeah.
So, like, be easy on her. Like, you know, she's only 20 years old. I was still in college at 20. I had no idea what I was doing. And so I think that it's fair for us to give her a chance to develop, to give her a chance to see who her character is going to be. And she might be a heel today and a face tomorrow, and it's going to be all good. I just hope that she's a strong worker. That's all.
Yeah, you know what? And you know what? You said there's a lot there, but things that jump out to me. One, this is The Rock's daughter. And, you know, I love what you said about, let's not judge it before it's time. But also before we even have a video or anything
Right.
like that, right? But the other piece of that is, I don't know what, like, it applies to Sasha Banks too. Like, you don't know the level of work, the level of time, the level of intensity that these people bring into their work. Like, I mean, The Rock, Sasha Banks, are built different. Like, it's just different. Like, and we can't really necessarily relate to that. They're high achievers. They're like, I would be surprised if The Rock's daughter shows up and it's like, what are we looking at? I don't know if she would want that to happen, given his legacy and his platform. That there's that extra pressure there. And I don't think anyone wants that to happen. Also, she's young. So why are we going to rush a 20-year-old onto TV, onto the road, traveling around, when we have seen how that has worked out or not really worked out for people in the past? Where, I mean, I remember over the years, and maybe this has changed, but they've talked about, oh, well, we're not going to put like these 20-year-olds, 19-year-olds on TV as much. And, the philosophy evolves with Vince and his people. But, I think there was a point where they stopped putting like these young kids out there, realizing that there's a lot more they have to work through and figure out. Like, now we are getting more stars who are 30. I mean, we have a lot more women on the roster who are in their 30s than probably ever before. And, same with the men in their 30s, their 40s. I think it speaks to WWE recognizing that you're better when you're able to bring that life experience to the table on top of that wrestling experience. So don't rush her. I don't know what the rush is. We don't need her. We don't need her there now. We'll get her eventually, hopefully, if she sticks with it. But we'll see.
Yeah. And final thoughts. Like, she's already said, like, she's annoyed at the whole, equating her to her father thing. Like, we need to kind of give her space to develop under her own umbrella, especially since that's what she wants. You know what I'm saying? She got the name changed. She's going with a whole different gimmick. So we should try to respect her as her own gimmick. Just kind of like with Solo Sikoa in NXT right now. Him talking about how he doesn't want to be equated with his brothers, and yet they still chant the Usos at him, like Uso, or Us at him. It's just like, try and give them a little bit of space to grow into themselves. Because the same people who are probably like already like, oh, I don't know how this is going to go, were the people asking her to be called the Pebble. And it's just like, let's not do that. Let's try and give her her own space to grow, especially since that's what she wants. It's very different than like Charlotte Flair, who embraced the gimmick of her father, and she's gone back and forth between embracing it and giving it up, embracing it. But she is first and foremost Ric Flair's daughter, and that's what she came into the business doing, even though she said she wasn't. But so let's just give her her room. All right, woo, man, the news. So before we move on to the highlights of the week, if you have any questions for us, any long form questions, you can send us an email to wrestling@RHAPhasawebsite.com. You can also go and follow us on Twitter at WrestlingRHAPUp on Twitter. Join the conversation by using hashtag WrestlingRHAPUp. And we tweeted out our playlist for the highlights of the week this week. So the highlights of the week playlist can be found in our show notes and our show descriptions. But now we're trying new things. We're going to tweet it out as well. You can also join us on the Facebook group, the unofficial official Facebook group. Job has a Squadcast Facebook group. If you want to come and join that group, just DM us, let us know. We'll get you in there. That's where we source most of our questions. And hopefully you've already subscribed to us. If you haven't, what are you doing? Go subscribe. Go to robhasawebsite.com/wrestling feed to subscribe to our podcast so you can get notified every time we drop. Hopefully you're also looking at our beautiful faces here on YouTube. You can go to the Rob Has a Podcast YouTube channel, search Wrestling RHAPup to find all of our video podcasts. Woo, that's a mouthful. Let's take a quick break and we'll be right back with the highlights of the week. Okay, we're back. And this week, We have a few highlights from all over the place here. Again, like I said, the highlights of the week can be found in our show notes or show description and a very, very handy playlist. Let's start with Raw. Okay, so for me, again, this week was not too compelling in my book. We start off Raw with Brock Lesnar and Paul Heyman having a promo, promoting the Lesnar Roman Reigns Last Man Standing match at SummerSlam. And you know, Paul Heyman is always good at this. He's always good at making can you throw those pictures back up there for me, Matt? He's always good at making his whoever he's advocating's opponent look good as well. This was basically a promo talking about how great Brock Lesnar was. Like, it was weird. It was like, Brock Lesnar is really great, Roman is really great, they might kill each other. I mean, it was perfect Paul Heyman, which was great, but it also is just like I'm kind of done with it. We get Austin Theory coming out, and let me ask you guys, Austin Theory felt a little bit in over his head here in this promo. Am I the only one who felt that? Am I hating? Solomon, what do you think?
No, they want to strap the rocket to Austin Theory's back,
Yeah.
but unfortunately, it's not organic, and it comes off as annoying and contrived and ridiculous, and none of those things in the good way. It's not even like
Yes.
like, people are just ambivalent towards him.
Yes.
And instead of actually being a feature of the story, he feels as if he's a distraction, and they're using him in that way. And that's not something that you want to have associated with the person who's holding the Money in the Bank briefcase, right? You want this person to be like menacing, ominous. You want this person to be threatening. You want this person to have the feeling that any moment they could do something to derail your career, or to take your title, or to take an opportunity from you. But they've not effectively made him a good heel.
Right.
I mean,
Very
even when
an
he
annoying mosquito type.
Yeah. I mean, and they're using him effectively in that way. Like, this is just another annoyance, and that's not how you create another Cena. That's not how you create another Batista. That's not how you create another Hunter.
Randy Orton.
Right. So this is not the beginning of a successful 20-year career. So and he's had all of the opportunities, and he's continued to have all the opportunities. And it's not his work. His work in the ring is not the problem. It's the writing. It's the issue comes back to be the writing again. And so, I mean, I get what they're trying to do by inserting him between Roman and Brock, as saying, oh, this is another story beat, but nobody wants to see it. Like, nobody believes it's plausible that even if Brock and Roman like destroy each other in the ring, that Austin Theory is going to come back behind them and like be able to cash in successfully. It's going to be a failed cash in.
Yeah.
Here's hoping, Matt.
Yeah, I feel like sometimes, just to give, I agree with that, but also, sometimes you need to give people opportunities to. Now, again, it's like the writing is horrible, the storyline not great, but they could make it work. I appreciate that they're putting him in the position to give him opportunities rather than just recycling the same old people. I'm glad that it wasn't Roman in this promo again, and we've seen that a million times. So, I keep saying it with Theory. I appreciate the effort and the general idea, but the execution definitely isn't there. Unfortunately, not the craziest about him, but I mean, if they're talking about building new stars, I mean, he's one of the only ones who I could think of that they're really doing that with, or trying to do that with. And so they could at least try to do it right and put more effort and time and focus into it.
Yeah, there is always that perma discussion of like, y'all say y'all want new stars, but then when they try to build new stars, you complain because they're not the new stars you want. And I'm like, you betcha. I don't want Theory as the new star. But it's just also that one of the things that they claim that he has going for them, he's pretty good on the mic. But standing right next to Paul Heyman, across from Brock Lesnar, he was flubbing. He looked like he was intimidated, and not on purpose. This was not a purposeful look. This was him being like in over his head. And I agree, the push being like so manufactured, like I know that is a part of the storyline, but it's still like doesn't want to make me participate in the storyline. And it kind of it angers me to say this because I have to defend a person I do not like. But if you look at the other side of the coin, you have Riddle, who is, you know, genuinely organically over because his rub from Randy like really took off. And we have, after Theory and Alpha Academy get just manhandled by Brock Lesnar, we get Theory with Seth Rollins versus Bobby Lashley and Riddle. And Riddle is getting the level of pops that you want from new upcoming stars. You know what I'm saying? He, you know, the crowd really likes him. So why is he not the, you know, the person facing Roman at SummerSlam? You know, him and Roman had a really good match on SmackDown. And it seems like if there's anybody that can take the belt off of either Brock or Roman, he could be next in line. But instead, we're getting another storyline where Dolph Ziggler comes out for no reason, and he's another prop to put over Theory. It looks like he attacks Theory after the match, and it's just like they are throwing everything against the wall for Theory. They are trying to make his character work. It's just not clicking for me. And I think, you know, they are not shying away from that. They're continuing to push him. So I guess we'll see how it goes. But like Solomon said, maybe it does lead to a failed cash in.
I mean, I like what they might be setting up, giving them the benefit of the doubt. I like what they might be setting up with Theory and Dolph, because we did see Theory, you know, try to kind of get Seth as his Money in the Bank mentor, so to speak. Seth has one of the greatest cash-ins, most notable cash-ins of Money in the Bank. And you think of a few people when you think of Money in the Bank cash-ins, like Edge is another one who comes to mind. Dolph also had a really solid Money in the Bank cash-in. Not a great world title reign after that, but a great cash-in. And so maybe we're going to see some kind of thing between them. And it is interesting because we have seen Dolph multiple times actually put with the younger upstart to help them develop and grow. And so I don't know if this means that they'll be against each other. I don't think that Dolph really works as a face anymore. If he ever did, he really has never been a great face. And so yeah, it'll be interesting.
Survivor Series, what, 2015 was probably the last.
I said a great face, Mari.
That was probably the last time I
was he great?
Was that 2014 or 2015? One of the two.
I don't know. But you know what? I like it. I like where it could be going.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we did get a question in Job House Squadcast from Brett. He says, how excited are you for WWE to drop the ball with Dolph again? To me, my expectations aren't high. So if they drop the ball with him, it's what I'm used to. So
yeah. Same.
So I am not surprised at that at all, to be quite honest. Theory did go on at SmackDown and had a match against Madcap Moss on SmackDown, but truly, who cares? So let's move on. So, from my understanding, maybe I'm missing this, but Bianca does not currently have a SummerSlam opponent, correct? Like, on Raw, we get Becky Lynch demanding that she gets a Raw Women's title match at SummerSlam. She referenced Carmella getting a rematch, but from what I understand, that was Carmella was getting that rematch that night. She got a rematch on Raw last week or this week, whatever you want to call it. So as of right now, Bianca does not have a SummerSlam opponent. we did get Bianca versus Carmella. Of course, Becky interfered and Bianca lost via countout. Carmella won, but of course the belt did not change hands. So are they setting up a triple threat at SummerSlam for Becky Lynch, Bianca Belair, and Carmella? Do you think this is the direction they're going, Matt?
I have no clue.
I
And
know.
I don't
So unfortunate.
I don't care for it. It would be weird. We talked about this before. I really thought that they wanted to go to the well with a SummerSlam match where it's the rematch of Bianca and Becky at SummerSlam, kind of Bianca redeeming herself for the 26 seconds,
26
which
seconds.
we've talked about this before though, where they kind of that didn't really look that bad in retrospect, how they followed it up. And they kind of talked about so much that it's like, yeah, Bianca was really blindsided and caught off guard there, which made sense. Right. But I wouldn't mind Becky and Bianca like one last time, as they're saying for Brock and Roman for SummerSlam. So throwing in Carmella, it would be a weird choice. And
I mean, she'd be there to take the pin, clearly.
Yeah, but like they don't need her to take the pin. Just have Becky take the pin and Bianca keep going.
Real quick, I think they wrap that storyline up perfectly at WrestleMania. I was actually looking forward to Becky Lynch moving away from the title spot. But it seems like there's some sort of holding pattern going on. Could it be because of the walkouts? We don't know. Solomon, any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think it's kind of strange that for the guys on their side, they can have multiple story beats and they're not being connected or associated with the belt. But for women, there's only one story, and it's always the belt. And then when Sasha and Naomi said, "Hey, we want to strengthen the stories around the tag team titles," there was not much given to that because they didn't take them seriously. And so the danger that Becky Lynch has or would experience is that, okay, if she moves away from the title scene, does she become irrelevant? Now she's the man. Let's be clear.
Very much.
But is she diminished by moving away from the title scene, which is the ongoing problem within the WWE, is not being able to write compelling stories that tell the narrative of a feud, right? A wrestling ring is a story about a feud. And the feud does not have to be about the championship. It does not have to be about, the belts. It does not have to be about, money. Feuds can just be about two people that don't like each other. Like, how do we write that out? And they've done little to nothing when it's come to writing out feuds for women, right? Because it's always kind of catty, always kind of outdated, not really, thoughtful at all. And so when I'm looking at this story with Bianca Belair, which is a fantastic wrestler, she's legit. I believe that she could probably beat somebody up for real.
Yep.
I think they're just kind of throwing it together, and I hate that for her, because she deserves to have moments that feel thoughtful, that feel thought out, that are actually reflective of a plan to take her to the next obstacle, because she is a person who needs obstacles. They're giving Carmella no obstacles other than being, what do they say, the prettiest wrestler in the world or something like that. Some weird, at this point in our journey with women's wrestling, like, I get it. I understand, that beauty is a commodity. Beauty is a currency. But when I punch you in the face, right, your beauty doesn't save you from that. And so unless you want to actually tell a story about how you're able to leverage like your aesthetics in for career success or something like that, give them something to do. I mean, anything. So there's issues with that. And then, again, I come back to Becky. I'm kind of tired of seeing Becky and Bianca fight each other.
I agree.
Yeah.
Unfortunately,
there's no stakes to it. right? I can
Right.
understand that
Yeah.
there was some stakes to it. Like, I
Mhm.
mean, even doing like a best 3 out of 5 or something like that. Like, if there was some
Oh,
stake, like,
yeah.
what's the stake?
Mhm.
What does it cost?
Yeah.
Why are you fighting each other? They've given us nothing. So that's been kind of troubling.
Yeah.
That's a great point. I loved the Cesaro Sheamus Best of 7 series
Hmm.
a few years ago. The one problem I had about it is like you announced that's the Best of 7 series, but you didn't like they didn't give each match like a different theme. I think they should do that. Like
Mhm.
a best of 7 series between two wrestlers where maybe the first two matches are just straight up regular matches, and then the later matches have like a different gimmick, like, oh, this is gonna be a steel cage, this is gonna be, as it like heats up the feud. That would be so cool. But you're having people wrestle repetitively for no stakes, like Solomon said.
Hmm.
Like, technically Becky and Asuka just had a feud away from the title, but because the title was brought into their feud a few occasions, it just didn't feel like that. And because they wrestled every week for like a month and a half,
Hmm.
it just took the fun
Yeah.
out of it, when, especially since those women are two great wrestlers. And I truly really love that triple threat that they had at what was that, Hell in a Cell.
Yeah.
So I agree, it really is sad. But I'm wondering, like, people are like blaming the walkouts, but now this is making me a little scared for Rhea, because Rhea
Oh.
Ripley was supposed to be the challenger at Money in the Bank. She had her injury. We found out later that it was maybe like a brain injury. We talked about it last week with Dr. Amanda, a neurologist, who was talking about how like concussions, neuroscientist, who was talking about how concussions can affect people, and the fact
Hmm.
that she's still out, and I think it's been at least 3 weeks or so, maybe 4, something like that. That's kind of scary to me. Like, I
Hmm.
hope Rhea's okay. And I think I'm hoping that what would have happened is, in a Bianca and Rhea feud, Bianca would have had to overcome Judgment Day. And it's just such a bad timing, because Judgment Day themselves lost Edge. Then the week after that, they only worked together for like maybe a week, and then they lost Rhea. So now Finn and Damian Priest are here trying to be Judgment Day, but they're in a spot against the Mysterios, and they just don't feel as menacing as they did when Edge was in the front of it. And it's like, it just feels like, I
Mhm.
don't know if it's like extremely bad luck, but I was sure we were going to get Rhea versus Bianca, and Bianca having to overcome Judgment Day, because if there's anything that Bianca deserves, it's a really good feud with the title.
Hmm.
Because every
Hmm.
time she's had the title, the feud is her getting the title. It's the whole babyface chasing. And as soon as she wins the championship, WWE does not know how to write babyface champions. They proved it time and time again. And unfortunately, Bianca is getting caught in this mix, that she is just not being presented well as the champion.
Mhm.
And that really, really, really pisses me off above anything. So it just really sucks that going into SummerSlam, I still don't know who Bianca's facing, and the options right now don't look great
Right.
at
And
all.
it's completely a WWE issue. Like, I want to say
Yeah.
the numbers say that within 2 years they've released over 100 wrestlers.
Yeah.
Like, they've released a crazy amount of talent within 2 years, and
Hmm.
you're saying, well, what do you do when you release that many people? Think about it. We could have had a Bianca Belair like Athena match for
Hmm.
Yeah.
SummerSlam. Think about how dope that would have been.
Yeah.
Like, we could have had I
We're,
mean,
Yeah.
we're gonna get Bianca versus Naomi before like the walkout.
You're right.
yeah,
Well,
like
yeah.
all those things could have been could have happened, but there was no imagination.
Right.
There was no like cogent scripting or writing.
Hmm.
I mean, they just don't see it for. They come in, they put something
Yeah.
together, and they hope it works, and it just
Right.
doesn't.
And
Yeah.
I sorry, Matt. I just want to
No, you're
say,
good.
I've been saying it time and time again. Don't you have all these Legends contract people on Legends contracts? Isn't that
Exactly.
what Paige just exited it? Like, Becky Lynch could be facing Again, where's Melina at? She could be facing.
Right.
Where's Kelly at? Where's Michelle McCool at? Like,
just bring them out. Bring everyone out.
And like the interesting part about it is these are all women who retired in their 20s. And so they're like mid 30s, late 30s now. They're not old. They're just not being used because the WWE envisions women, profitability to be over at 25.
Yeah. Ridiculous.
Yeah, and it is, and like we see each year how good, like how they're in great shape. You took the words right out of my mouth there. Like they're all still young, and literally, even if we look at like the oldest of them, who's kind of like a viable option to come back for a run. I mean, to be fair, this was the one example we've gotten in a little while, but like Lita came back and she's almost 50. She's almost 50 and she was out there wrestling, which looking great. We have never almost seen with these women, with the exception of obviously the Mae Young and Fabulous Moolah of it all that they used to do to kind of like trot them out and for the jokes and the laughs, right? But I would just add that all of this kind of makes me feel like the wrestlers, the writers don't have the respect for wrestling or the understanding of what wrestling could be and its nuance. Because like, I mean, and I don't want to blame the writers because they might be writing gold and Vince McMahon and others might be shooting it down. But at the same time, like Solomon, you set it up at the start of this episode talking about just all the things that wrestling is and how it is this nuanced thing, and they're not treating it that way. They're centering everything around the championships, which is not, that doesn't give a lot of room for compelling. Anything else. Yeah. And then the other piece of it though, is just that like, let's put in some real motivation, some real emotion, bring in real life a little bit too. In some of this, there's so much that could motivate why two people are fighting each other and how it progresses that they don't even go there. Like what they've been doing the last year for the most part, ever since SummerSlam, which it was a little interesting once when Becky returned and then there was the draft, but it's been a lot of Becky on commentary, sitting and talking about what's going on. Bianca on commentary, sitting and watching and talking about what's going on. It's like, what? That's all we have for the women. I mean, it's not much better for the men, but like they could do so much better with the women. Jeez. Ugh.
Yep. And where's Bayley? I mean, I know she's living her best life, but
yeah, I'm okay. I'm okay with that. Like it's because in my mind, it's just like an Ava Raine situation where it's like, look, I'm not rushing anyone back. I'm not. Mari, we are not asking where Charlotte is, but she could stay. She could stay taking her vacation, resting her body, doing whatever. Heck, Rhea could take her time coming back and heal up. Hopefully she doesn't need to be out that long, but yeah, I hope we get Bayley back soon actually, because it's been a little so we've been talking about her since the Royal Rumble. So
and one of the other issues that the women's division has is like there is an upper crust of workers. Like what they have some of the best women's workers in the world, but then they let go of a lot of their good workers. And Bayley is one of those people who is like an extremely confident, like amazing, dare I say, generational type of talent when it comes to like in the ring work. Bayley is about that life, and so her reintroduction into the roster gives them the ability to tell some amazing stories, to have some amazing matches. And granted, now, and the other part about it is, in the last 3 or 4 years, she's become one of their top 3 or 4 like talkers.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Bayley Bayley can talk money in the building. And so and that came by the process of her discovering herself, discovering her character. Like, I mean, and I was cool with the Bayley who had like the used car salesman balloon people that did the thing. I love that. I was here for that. I mean, that's how I, got to know her. It's like this white meat baby face. And I was thinking,
Yeah.
like, she was like, oh, she's just a girl who really likes to wrestle. And I'm like, heck yeah, I'm down with that. You just like the, I mean, it had little, like, cute little moves like the Bayley to belly. That was cute, right? But the character broadened, like it deepened, it thickened when she was allowed to explore the full width and breadth of her humanity, which also includes, like, so we talk about like good versus evil, face versus heel. No, what Bayley did is she expanded on the character, and so she does not have to be one thing, because no person is one thing. It allowed her to experience the complexity of humanity, right? So I can be both good and bad existing in a singular person. And so it's not necessarily an issue of person, it's an issue of perspective, how you look at the issue that she's engaging. And so Bayley found a way to broaden, to withen, to thicken her character. And by the thickening, we see how much more of a phenomenal talent that she is, because we've been allowed to be, or welcomed into the wholeness and fullness of who she is.
Yes.
Damn.
I mean, we cannot say any of that better. I mean, truly.
It's like, that's deep. That's deep. Someone needs to clip that and put that somewhere, because that's real. And I mean, I like, they were referring to Bayley as the John Cena of NXT, or like the next John Cena, even if they brought up. And we saw kind of how they sort of bungled things when they brought her up, but she managed to figure it out. She found her footing. And then, of course, there was the heel turn, which was just pure gold along the way, through the time that she was injured and out. Yeah, all of it. So
her and Sasha carried the pandemic. So I just miss her. I just miss her so much. And that really made me miss her even more. So I hope she comes back. But honestly, we don't have a clip of it up here today, because again, SmackDown was so freaking repetitive. It was just Liv versus Natty, and then because Ronda, like it truly feels like Ronda is holding a whole division hostage, and she's not even the champion anymore. Liv Morgan is the champion. And again, Liv's promos have been really good. They've been really babyfacey, but it's been the same. And she's still supposed to fight Ronda, who at this moment is still supposed to be a face as well. So they're using Natalya to kind of prop up their feud. Basically, this week it was like, oh, Liv, you didn't beat Natalya faster than Ronda. Are you scared of Ronda? Like, what is this storytelling here? And why does it really feel like nobody wants to be on SmackDown's women's roster? Solomon?
I've said it so many times too. It's rough.
Well, and so there are a few things. There are faults in how they have written for Ronda Rousey, and the main critique that I have for how they have written her is that they have depended so much upon her past that they have not envisioned the future for her. So effectively what she's doing is she's simply recycling what she did yesterday without any pretense to what she can do in the future, or who she can be in the future. Or like the person that she models herself after persona wise in the ring is Roddy Piper. Right? But think about what Roddy Piper does.
Right.
What he evokes in the imagination, right? So he's like this everyman. He's not particularly like built. He's not jacked to the stars or whatever. He is a person that effectively talks it like he walks it, and they've not been able to hone in on that with her. And so she's a blank slate. She's good. She's physical. We all know that she's legit. Like, she can do this for real. But what we fail to see is, like, where is her humanity? What drives? She's already accomplished everything that she can accomplish, like in combat sports. Where is her humanity? What keeps her going? What motivates her? What drives her? What brings her beyond being just this blank slate of a person? And so once you introduce this blank slate into the WWE, it's always going to fall apart, right?
Mm.
The thinnest characters have the highest level of disposability. No matter how widely known you are, it's a thin character. And so the trick is to try to find ways to explore greater depths of humanity. Now, brings me to Liv Morgan.
Mhm.
Miss, you only live once, right? So what is she doing as she is interpreting the character of Liv Morgan herself? Right? She's this hard scrabble. She's this kid who's trying to get it from the bottom. She is
Mhm.
like, granted, she has all of these, she's pretty or whatever, but she wants to work it. Like she
Yeah.
wants to work and she wants to get better and she wants to prove herself, right? So, like, you only live once is a motto that associates herself with the brand that she brings to the ring, that she's going to leave it all out there and do what she needs to do and make it beyond all forces and all odds. And so, yeah, she's standing in front of Ronda. Yeah, she's standing in front of
Natty.
Natty, right? She's
Mhm.
like, and she shouldn't believe in herself like she does, but she does,
Mhm.
right? And so, it gives us confidence in believing in who she is. So, yeah, she's a baby face, but they're gonna have to turn Ronda heel.
They need to.
Yeah.
They
Yeah,
need
and
to.
it's wild. It's kind of wild to me just with that in mind that, back to Rhonda's humanity and who she is, the way that I perceive Rhonda, she's someone who wants to be the best. She wants to be the champion. She's not going to be a good sport about not being the woman because she's the baddest woman on the planet. So
Right.
how is she walking around smiling, being okay with not being champion? You want to see
Right.
her going off and going wild. And I talked about this last week, but like bring in the other the horsewomen of the MMA, for the,
Well,
and it's kind of like that
Right.
ship
They
has sort of
can't.
sailed.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right.
But I mean, that's what happens when you release them. Going
Yeah.
back to like all of these releases that
Mhm.
at the end of the day just limit the possibilities of what they could do on the drop of a dime. And I mean, Ronda could be so much more and could be compelling. And I think her first run was, I mean, for me, I was a big fan of her first run. I was a big fan of all of those matches where it's like,
Mhm.
could Ronda do it? Wow, she did it. And, they really spent a lot of time and, like, I'm sure practiced those matches
Yeah.
endlessly, but it was good and it was interesting. And then Becky and Charlotte and others added to that. There's just not that same fire around what we're getting now.
Well, and this is something that is interesting. Ronda could be brilliant if she didn't have to be perfect. And so much of the WWE philosophy when it comes to writing their baby faces is the infallibility of the baby face.
Yeah.
But she doesn't have to be perfect. Like the people who we love in our detective novels, in our stories, in our TV characters, in our actors and actresses, like they're not perfect. They're just trying, right? And so finding ways to get to that aspect of her personality where it's brilliant because it's broken. It's brilliant because it's struggling. It's brilliant because, like, no, she wants to be the best in the world, but she's willing. And her fatal flaw is, I'll do anything to get it. I'll hurt whoever I have to hurt to get it. I'll cross lines to get it, right? Like, so I was watching like Luther the other day, and he's like this brilliant police, detective or whatever. But
Yeah,
what's his
love
fatal
Luther.
flaw? He'll cross lines. He'll go above and beyond the barriers and the limitations, and that makes him like we want to cheer for him. At the same time, we want to we're like it's cringeworthy.
Yeah.
Like we instantly go into like cringe when we are exploring the depths of his brokenness, right? And allowing us just to see a little bit of that brokenness can be one of those turmoil story pieces that allow the story to expand that much more.
I agree with that. I think it's the WWE. I think it's her big name too that but my biggest thing with her character, I think the biggest flaw is like WWE lets us see her flaws to me. Because I think she still can't talk. She has not been able to talk in the year, her first year run, and then now this year's run. She can't talk. So why do you keep putting her out there to make these 5-minute promos knowing she cannot talk. Like, give it up, Delicious. Like,
Ah!
give her a manager. Give
Give
her
it
a
up,
manager.
Delicious.
She is an MMA baddest woman on the planet.
Yeah.
Give her a manager. You know, and it doesn't have to. I know everybody wants it to be Paul Heyman. Paul Heyman is not the only manager.
Paige
in
came
the
up
place.
in that conversation too. I think she might have even tweeted something like, but she might have
Yeah.
tweeted something like, "Oh, come,
I
like, make me manager." I don't know. A lot of people have like, I've probably raised their hands to volunteer to be her manager. Bring in even Kurt Angle, like even him. Anyone.
Zelina Vega is sitting back there in catering, and she's a great wrestler. She's a great talker. Her managing run with Andrade made people think that he could win the belt one day. So put Zelina with Ronda, put her in a suit, make her talk for Ronda, and I think we're cooking with grease. Like Jade Cargill can talk on the mic. That's our perception of her because she is highly protected. She can talk, but she also had Smart Mark. She now has Stokely Hathaway. She has all these people around her so that she's not forced to try to talk her way to, being relevant. She has crutches and options, and because of that, she is like one of their bigger stars. Hide the flaws of the people you are trying to push. They are literally pushing Ronda out there to the dogs, and me being a dog, I see a meal because she is bad. She is horrendous on the mic. And I don't know if they tried, they're like, okay, well, you can't do scripted, now try and go off the cuff. And she can't do that, which is weird because I feel like that's all she did in MMA. But if you think about it, when you go back to what she actually did in UFC, most of her most notable quotes were all just sound bites and clips. And you know what I'm saying? Did we ever actually listen to a whole interview post fight from her? No, the things that would be trending would be her sound bites. So like they're not protecting her. That's the biggest thing. They're not protecting her. It's not compelling. SmackDown used to be the show that I would watch live. It'd be the only show of the week that I would watch live because I wanted to experience it, and it has just fallen down to the depths of, again, I'll either catch it on my DVR or I'll catch a few clips. I am not compelled to watch that show anymore at all. So it's very, very unfortunate, but it's stinking from the root. It truly is. It's stinking from the root of the creative.
But the other aspect of that is this, that they want all of their characters to be able to talk, but they want them to be able to talk too long.
There you go.
It's too long. Like, I'm a guy who talks for a living every week, and I can tell you that it's too long. You don't need to take a perfect example. Dusty Rhodes was able to cut an effective promo a minute and a half to 3 minutes. 10, 20 minutes on the long side, it's too long. You already know that she doesn't have those kind of skills, and she doesn't want to, right? She wants to be an in-ring product. So give her like a minute promo, and that's it, and go on to the next thing. Don't have her out there trying to, fight for her life with 5 or 10 minute promos.
Yeah. Exactly that. All right, well, we gotta move on. We're enjoying our time too much here. All right, so we get these weird vignettes. Matt,
so weird. It's so weird. I'm not.
Matt he did the Charlie Day style, like Matt is trying to figure this out. So on Raw this week, we got 2 mysterious messages. Who are these mysterious videos talking about? Matt decided to do a slideshow. Matt, break it down for us a little bit.
We need to break it down. So, you have to go through frame by frame, second by second. You have to get the pauses, but I was able to take the screenshots. The big reason I did this was because, number one, we could speculate and talk about what's here. And I could just run through the images, and then we could talk about it and maybe go back to some if we kind of want to talk about any of them. Because I have thoughts. I think I've solved the mystery. But I did this also because like you can't find images of these videos on WWE.com. So we have them here exclusively on the Wrestling RHAPup, breaking it down. And I have 11 images. One of them is a lock, candles, basic stuff like that. There was a church in there and a gate somewhere. But then it gets interesting. There are lots of like particular flashes of different things. And so there's this image of some taped up glasses and some other stuff sitting around with the taped glasses over there. There was a medal, like a
Olympic gold
and
medal.
Olympic gold medal potentially. More images of that stuff. Of maybe some
The
arm.
glass. Is it arm gloves?
I think those are the arm gloves.
Like the Hardys.
Yes, like the Hardys there. A Randy Orton shirt, flat out. Yeah,
that is literally just a shirt.
Cena hat. A shirt burning on fire. A red flannel shirt on fire. That sounds vaguely familiar. And then smeared blood on a wall.
From a cup. That blood came from a cup.
Yes. Smeared by someone who's walking through a cloud of smoke and wearing apparently a trench coat of some sort with a lot some shoulder, maybe some shoulder pads, who knows. But Mari, what do you think about that? I don't know. To me, it seems very clear who it is.
Yeah, it is clearly Edge. This is clearly Edge.
It's very clearly Edge. If you break down the images, but I didn't have any idea, honestly, when I watched the videos without breaking it down this much.
Yeah, I mean, I think we heard rumblings that it might have been Edge a few weeks back, and then these videos just kind of cemented it. These are just some of his greatest rivalries. I mean, how more like can you get with the flaming Mick Foley shirt? Like, he put Mick Foley through the flaming table. This is great imagery, and this is awesome. Don't get me wrong.
The awesome imagery.
However, why are we doing this for Edge? It's Edge. Like, like we're going to be excited no matter what. Like, when he comes back, we're going to be excited. Like, this is something that I kind of, again, this is where I feel like I wish they would use this type of promo for like new up and coming
anybody.
Stars. But it's great. I mean, the video production team are always really good. Now, it will. Will he be a good guy? Will he be a bad guy? Will he still kind of have that preachy type of character going on?
Who cares? Who cares?
Solomon, you think Edge is gonna be a pastor like you with all these?
Yeah, that might be what's going on.
Boo! I mean, granted, I like what I do, but no, I don't want to see that. I mean, Edge is the rated R superstar. We need him to be who he is, and he was like just on TV a couple weeks ago, and so it doesn't make any sense with the things that they're effectively trying to do with their talent. Like, this is a man, and this is something I think that they're not taking into account. This is a man who we didn't think was going to be able to wrestle again.
True.
Yeah.
And so why would we squander this golden opportunity, this gift that we've been given with him gracing the ring again by like doing weird things? Like Judgment Day could have worked because it could have been an opportunity for him to like mentor a next generation of wrestlers, so forth and so on. And I was with that. Like, I loved it. I love the look of it. I love, the aesthetics. I love Edge being, in front. I liked it. I did. Now I'm a Finn Balor fan. I am, but Edge in that role without the supernatural foolishness. I don't want any of that. Like, I don't need that. With him just having a menacing effective heel faction that actually wins matches. I'm messing with that. This, what they're doing, I don't want to see a retrospective of Edge's like highlights. I want you all to write a story for this man, and I want to see some banging matches. I want to see him talking on the mic. I want to see like Edge giving that work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's sad. I felt like we got like really good full Judgment Day for like 2 weeks, and then they turned.
I mean, and you know what? And the thing is, we didn't even need to have. I think I think they messed up by having him kicking him out of Judgment Day when they did, because we didn't even get the full potential of that with the we didn't get tension between Finn and Edge beyond that one attack that they had. Like it just wasn't there. And so they could have done so much more, but I feel like that would have helped transition the group to Finn and to Damian and to Rhea, but they kind of just kicked Edge out, which immediately the group is less over. They didn't use him to build them up like in segments alongside Finn and alongside Priest and Rhea and kind of build the tension. And so that was definitely a huge missed opportunity. And then now he's coming back. Like what? But I do love the promo. I love this video package and like references to Bubba Ray and to Jeff Hardy and to Eddie Guerrero was in there. There was a license plate that said Latino Heat.
And one of them,
There was like so much that they did here, but there's always a disconnect for WWE between where, like what they do for the promos and then how it actually unfolds. Like mark my words, this video will be the most interesting part of Edge's return.
Yeah,
which is unfortunate, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
because he's already had like a Hall of Fame career. He's done everything that one could want to do, and he doesn't he's not beholden to the WWE for his life. He has other roles. He's an actor. He was on Vikings for a while. He's fine. As far as I know. I don't know. Maybe he has like a strange addiction to like exotic cars and he can't I don't want to get out. But you want this act of your life to be substantive, like to be weighty and to mean something. And the WWE doesn't do they do a good job with moments. They don't do a good job creating the material that leads to the moments.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah. All right, and then just finally, for WWE, the main roster, Pat McAfee cut an amazing promo on Baron Corbin. Baron Corbin reacted to it. I just included this because I love Pat McAfee. Dang it, if this man wasn't born to be in the wrestling entertainment industry. Like, he is so good. And him constantly calling Baron Corbin bum ass Corbin is just chef's kiss. The history of like them being like freshmen on the Indianapolis Colts roster and being like roommates and stuff like that. Like that tinge of realness was really funny and cool to hear. And him referencing going to TV 14. This was just such a great promo. Like Pat McAfee can talk his butt off. That's why he's one of my favorite announcers right now. Him and Michael Cole on the announce table you cannot find a better team in WWE at all. And he just brings so much enthusiasm to WWE that it just so hyped. He gets me so hyped up. And I watched this promo and it made me want to go back and watch the War Games match with his team versus like Adam Cole's team.
Yeah.
Stop. He was like, nah, you didn't like that one?
He's like, I don't. What do you have to say about that?
I love that one.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And it was a situation whereby like I didn't know Pat McAfee and like didn't follow him and I like don't listen to his podcast or whatever. Because white dudes in podcast spaces can be weird.
Yeah, we don't know.
And you don't know what you're gonna get. And I'm like, right. So I just don't want any extra weirdness right now.
And he's been there. He has had some weirdness too with some of the people.
Right.
But
and so
that
put that was like when I heard about some of the weirdness or whatever. So I was like, okay, well I just don't need it.
I did
engage him in
not.
that kind of space or whatever. But
Yeah.
he actually has no business being as good as he is, both one in the ring and then two on the mic.
Yeah.
He doesn't really, he's not supposed to be this good at that, but he is. He understands it. He's able to. I mean, like he was a kicker. It wasn't like he had an impressive amount of time when it came to putting together a personality or a character like a quarterback would be, because they're always getting interviewed or whatever. He was a kicker.
Yeah.
But he has found a way to ingratiate himself to the art of professional wrestling, and he is veritably one of the best talkers that they have on their roster. And it makes no sense for him to be the best talker that they have on their roster. That's strange.
Yeah, it is
Very
kind of
interesting.
wild. And you know what? The thing is, he's so quick too. He just kind of like sneaks a lot of things in. Like I watched the second time I watched the promo from SmackDown, he made a comment right at the beginning, like, Corbin had his hair, he had a bad body, and he had only one bad tattoo. And I was like, damn, look at that. It's true.
Yeah.
And so it's not just the, basic childish sophomoric humor. It is, he always just, he brings a fire to it. And then he comes back to some of the same things where it's like, oh, that's what we love. Him calling him a bum or, all that stuff. And so, look, I mean, he's able to, he's a good example of someone you could give the mic to and they trust him and love him enough clearly to like give him the room to do what he's doing. And then I think he's probably confident enough where he is in his career, even outside of wrestling, where he could just do that and think, you know what, even if I mess up or if this pisses off Vince McMahon, like I could talk my way out of it, I have a career outside of WWE if I need it. Like there's no fear in him.
Hopefully
which
he's still a millionaire, I would assume.
I don't stay in his bank account, Mari, but I'm not balancing his books, but his books are probably pretty balanced is what I'll say. Oh man. Yeah, but this is a lot of fun. And I mean, I didn't even truly like consciously realize that they were roommates and that they were on the Colts together. I didn't even like process that or think about that. So
yeah,
which makes it that much better.
It does.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Exactly.
They've been referencing it for a few weeks because then Pat McAfee said, yeah, we were roommates until like Baron Corbin got cut from the team. Yeah. And then Baron Corbin's like, I didn't get cut. I went to the Cardinals, which was a better team, and all this stuff. And it's very funny to kind of bring that that personal touch to the feud. And I think this is going to be a really good match at SummerSlam because Baron Corbin still manages to always just get people invested in a lot of the stuff that he does, even though it doesn't make sense. Like it doesn't make sense that we hate Baron Corbin, but also he's just the perfect heel in the sense that you want to see him get punched in the face. Like you just constantly want to see him get punched in the face. I think the Madcap Moss feud was the only feud that I was like, I'm good. Like one of his only feuds. But yeah, that's it for the main roster. Let's just take a quick break and we'll move on to NXT and AEW. Okay, so on NXT, the main thing that had the streets up buzzing, right? So last week, we didn't talk about it, but last week on NXT 2.0, Roxanne Perez and Cora Jade beat Toxic Attraction to win the women's, or was that last week or 2 weeks ago? Anyways, it doesn't matter. They beat Toxic Attraction to win the tag team titles. And then Roxanne Perez announced that she would be cashing in her contract. She won the breakthrough tournament. She said she would be cashing in her contract to face Mandy Rose. I immediately was like, don't do that. Like, don't announce it. Like, don't announce it. But they always announce it, as always. And so before in this episode, Roxanne Perez was jumped in the parking lot. We didn't know who jumped her in the parking lot. Toxic Attraction said it wasn't us. And so she was bandaged up really badly. Mandy Rose was like, ha ha ha. She's so badly injured. She's not going to face me tonight. And Cora Jade comes out and is like, oh, Roxanne can't face you, but I can. But then Roxanne, I can't call her Roxanne. I just want to call her Roxy, to be quite honest. But
I mean,
they
should. It's
her
a
old
nickname.
name.
It's a nickname for Roxanne, just Roxy for short. Come
Roxy.
on.
So Roxanne comes out and she's like, no, I can do it. Very, very white meat baby face. She's very over with the crowd. She's been getting over with the crowd for like a months now. And she goes in to face Mandy Rose. Your typical match. Mandy Rose targets her midsection because that's what's bandaged. At one point, Toxic Attraction kind of gets in there. I'm saying all this to say Roxanne is trying to get the upper hand on Mandy Rose, and all of a sudden Cora Jade takes their tag team title, her tag team title, and hits Roxanne with it. It gives Mandy the opening. Yes, this is a great picture here of Roxanne realizing that Cora Jade has hit her with the title. She's looking back at her like, why? And then Mandy Rose retains her title. She pins Roxanne, takes her title. Cora Jade comes into the ring, says, I made you. Cora Jade was the darling of NXT 2.0 before Roxanne came, which is true. This all happened. And then she goes to hit her with her skateboard. Bad luck here because the gimmick skateboard actually breaks before it hits Roxanne, but it was not too bad. It was okay. It's sure, it's whatever.
Oh.
But we get Cora Jade turning on Roxanne, and they are your current NXT Women's Tag Team Champions. Solomon, did you care here? What's going on? What did you think about this?
It was too soon. It didn't feel like it was actually thought out. It didn't feel scripted or planned. I don't see a path in it.
Mm-hmm.
Why would you have a person or a team to win the tag team championship last week and then turn around and effectively break them up this week? That doesn't make sense to me. That doesn't help your tag team title. It doesn't help to have a viable challenger or opponent for your women's title.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't deepen the character. It doesn't broaden them. It doesn't tell us anything about the characters. And then I get it when things are done haphazardly, and it does feel like it was done haphazardly. But then the other issue that I have about things being done haphazardly is when they're done haphazardly and not well, right?
Yeah.
So this feels like it was just kind of not done well. The lady walks around with a baby skateboard, and she doesn't hit anybody with it, and she doesn't ride it. Which I don't have a problem with you not riding it. Hit someone with it. You're bringing the weapon to the ring. Hit someone, and if you're going to hit them, like, make it look legit. do the Triple H sledgehammer thing. It's kind of like give them one of those or whatever. Make it. You can do this to them. Or
to
whatever.
The throat, maybe.
Something. Yeah. Grind it down on their forehead or something. Just like do something that makes it look legit, or makes it even look painful. But when it's a piece of the skateboard hit her in the head, the skateboard's like this long.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it's not thought out very well. It's not done very well. And then you have another person in AEW doing the same skateboard gimmick, but well.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I look at Darby Allin versus like Cora Jade, and they're effectively operating in the same stratosphere as far as gimmicks is concerned, like angsty type of skater dude. Darby's on another kind of spectrum with it or whatever, but he's still this is the same skateboard gimmick. Like he will hit you with it.
Yeah.
Right. And that's part of the character. If you want to turn her, into a heel, like give her heel things to do and like make them look effective. And they haven't done that here.
Look,
and the other part about that is it really hurts Mandy Rose because it doesn't add to her or validity of her title reign.
Yeah, and the thing I would say too, I like that distinction between Darby Allin and Cora Jade, and I know others have brought that up on wrestling Twitter, and I think the big difference is Darby Allin, like he loves extreme sports, he's into that. Like I remember reading about how Darby Allin and Jeff Hardy are bonding over like their love of all these different extreme sports. Like that is legit. Cora Jade was handed a skateboard and told, "Bring this out. This will work for your gimmick." Like she is not a skateboarder. She is not like so. That might be one of the differences here. I would like to see her pulling off some like Tony Hawk kind of moves. Do
Stop
some
it.
ollies on people's faces. Do like a 700 or 900 or however many spins, whatever. She's not bringing any of it into the gimmick. She just carries the skateboard around for the most part, and it's like. It's not legit. It doesn't feel legit, Mari.
In no way, shape, or form am I taking Darby Allin's side on anything.
No.
So I think if anything, maybe this heel turn and the broken skateboard, maybe this means she can switch up her gimmick now so that so it comes off more authentic. She can pick something else that's more authentic.
Yeah.
And I do like the direction of the whole like jealous baby face, because in this instance it's correct. You know what I'm saying? Cora Jade was the darling of NXT for a good year. You know what I'm saying? She came out, she was getting the 1, 2, 3 kids style wins. She led a team at War Games. Like people were chanting her name. Like she truly was like the biggest babyface they had there. But she kept running up against Mandy Rose. Mandy Rose has had the belt for like over 200 something days, I think, like something like that. And she just kept losing. And then Roxanne comes up out of the breakthrough challenge, and all of a sudden now everybody's rocking with her. And because of a lot of the releases, they ended up getting put together. So the storyline that they are going with, it is at least consistent. I think it's at least consistent, but I agree. It was just done too early. We did get a question from Derek in the Job Has a Squadcast group. He said, real question, how do you feel about already turning Cora against Roxanne? Like that's the thing, nobody's shocked that this happened. Like we were seeing the pieces as they were going along. We're all shocked that they did it this soon and this quickly, especially with them wearing the titles. Then that's the biggest thing, right? It's the execution that they of course missed the mark on.
Well, yeah, and I want to add that it doesn't really make sense to me. Like I get the jealousy storyline, and I think they could have really built that up. But if you think about it, you just won the championships together. She, at least let Roxanne like win the championship and then be angry. But your girl has a title shot. Like it's not that big of a deal. Like stay calm, pretend to be happy to her. She's probably not going to win because of toxic attraction. Like it just doesn't make sense that this is the point where she turns. And then the fact that they have the championships is interesting because Ashley in the Facebook group asked, will we ever see formerly Casey Catanzaro and Kaden Carter as tag champs in NXT? Do not ask me what their
I do not know her name is. Yeah.
Sicily. I don't know. I'm making stuff up, but
I don't even know the name. Yeah.
I can't. But you know what? Like, why don't we put those championships with another team? And maybe they will be the next champions, but it is kind of hard to I can't really wrap my head around the turn at this point because Cora is going to end up with nothing, with no tag team, with no championships period through this. So
at
least wait until you lose them to turn. It just doesn't really add up to me from a logic motivation standpoint.
Yeah, it does. It makes you think. It's like, so are they going to try and continue as the champions together? That doesn't make much sense. Are they going to just, give up the belts? That doesn't really make much sense. Kaden Carter lost to Tatum Paxley. Like Tatum Paxley and Ivy Niles seem to be making a feud with Kaden and whatever Casey's new name is. And so they'll have to figure something out. Maybe this will be an opening for some of some of those women's teams, but yeah, it just feels poorly timed and badly placed. But everybody still loves Roxanne, so that they do have that going for them, I guess. Well, right, I know we'll have to see. We'll have to see where this really goes. And Mandy
And
Rose, I mean, who's gonna take that belt off of Mandy Rose, y'all? Like, truly.
and this is one of the problems that the Rainbow brand of NXT has been encountering. Um, and not so much on the men's side, but definitely on the women's side. What
Yes.
is a character?
Mm-hmm.
So they've been like going back to the 1990s expressions of like Vince writing, which is, an IRS guy who likes to fight,
Yeah.
a garbage truck worker who likes to fight, a
Yep.
clown that likes to fight, a fireman that likes to fight, a Mountie that likes to fight. And so
Yeah.
effectively, it's everybody in their own professions who likes to fight. And what is Cora Jade? Cora Jade is a skater girl who likes to fight. Um, and that's not who she is. That's not who. It's not innate to her personality. It's not organic. And so when like people like Stone Cold talk about who their character is, Stone Cold is not like some factory worker who likes to fight.
Right.
He's Stone Cold Steve Austin. He's Steve Borland turned up to 11.
11.
So what are we doing in order to help our workers, help our characters understand who they are? And then as writers, just turn them up to 11.
Yeah.
Just turn them up to 11. To dig in, that requires that we actually know, experience, like understand, discover who Cora Jade is. And instead of giving her a character, developing what's already innate, developing what's already there, and just turning it up to 11.
Yeah, and that makes me think, and it makes me curious, like something that it makes me think about what we were talking about with Ava Raine and with just younger, like she's young, she's 20, as we said. Cora Jade is 21. And I mean, part of it, I think, is also too, and I've heard performers talk about this before, but it's like understanding yourself as a person helps you deliver a better character. It helps you show up even more. And so maybe that might be part of why she's not. I mean, I know it doesn't help that, being a 21-year-old, like we've talked about this, like there's a big difference between between being a 30-year-old and a 21-year-old, and what you know about yourself and who you are and how you can be confident in that. And so, what? Cora is an example of someone who's like learning and growing in real time in front of us. And I mean, I think it's fine and I appreciate it, but sometimes that's not what's best.
I'm like scrolling through her Instagram right now because I'm like, that's what I'm trying to do. I'm like, I want to get a sense of who she is. I'm not doxing her. What? Anyways, and it's funny that you mentioned their ages because like Cora Jade is 21. I think Roxanne is 20 if I remember correctly. And then they have Thea Hale there who's like 18 and she's doing the Chase University thing. So they are getting younger and younger. And maybe you just go with that younger aesthetic. Like Cora Jade, I'm looking at her in character stuff is like the skater, the short shorts, the backwards hat, all that stuff. But all of her like day off stuff, it's that typical 21-year-old kind of like Fashion Nova style dresses, very pretty. Like she's like very much glammed up when she's away from the ring. So it doesn't seem that this skater character seems to be her, just from like going through her Instagram. So do we just turn it into like a mean girl style? Like she has the tattoos, do we give her kind of like a punky pretty mean girl type of vibe, something like that. It's just very interesting. And I think Matt is right when you say that if they don't know themselves, can they turn themselves up to 11?
No.
In a sense. Yeah.
But and this is the other part, other aspect that's important. So like nobody knows themselves in isolation, right?
Right.
We all come to know ourselves through the care, compassion, and contribution of others. Like people help us discover who we are, right? And so what a writer should do, given the talent, is to be able to hone and distill who they are, to pull up and pull out what's there, to help them clarify for themselves, right? So once I see what you're into, let me go ahead and just start dreaming for you. So that requires the writer have a sensation of who this person is and who they could be.
Yeah, you know what? This makes me think about a lot of work that I do, which is a lot about people's stories and helping amplify people's stories, helping them draw out like what's the story that is uniquely theirs. And part of that is sitting with someone and like diving in and like asking them questions to understand who they are, but also helping them connect the dots, because I know, even personally, I'm sure a lot of us could relate to this. It's hard to know your story because you're so deep in it that it's like, oh, I'm all these things. When, maybe if you're sitting and having a conversation, or you talk to someone who knows you really well, or your best friend or a family member, whoever it is, they could tell you, oh no, here's your story. Like, this is the unique thing that's you. And so just seconding that they could do a lot better. The writers could do a lot better to draw that out. And it would be interesting. It would be beneficial not only to the character, but to that person confidently representing the brand of WWE and saying, here's who I am, here's why I care, here's why you should watch and tune in, or else you're just kind of lost. Like, who am I? I don't even skate outside of work.
That's not even to say that it can't change, because you change as you grow.
Right.
Like, Game Master was Steve Austin's gimmick, but it was not his final gimmick, because he continued to develop, he continued to grow. And so what we do as fans is we want to cast wrestlers as this is their final product. This is the synthesis of everything that they are, but it's not. Like, they're all in process. They're all on path. And so writing gives us the ability to take the journey with a person as they are in process and on path.
Yeah, and just to add to that, I mean, I just want to add a thought here for Cora that, she's there, right? She's there. She's in NXT. She has to make it work. She needs a gimmick. She's 21, as I mentioned, and you have to figure out something and put something out there. But we all also know what it's like to be in that position where, we kind of just have to go, even if we're not ready. That's what a career is. That's what happens when your parents or whoever are like, okay, you need to actually get a job and start supporting yourself, if that's the position you're in, or whatever it might be. So we're all kind of pushed out there and have to make it work. And so she's doing what she can. She's probably doing the best that she can, but it takes a village, and it definitely wouldn't hurt to have that support and that help coaching along the way. Personally, in terms of understanding, I don't know anything about her, so I don't want to say she doesn't understand who she is, but better understanding who she is as she grows and gets older, and then also translating that into a character that is authentic, that reflects that.
Yeah. Yep. Sounds good. All right. And finally, we want to talk about on AEW this week, Swerve in Our Glory, comprised of Swerve Strickland and Keith Lee. They are now the tag team champions. They won the tag team championships in a triple or nothing match, which is just a triple threat. It was a tag team triple threat.
Triple or nothing.
Triple or nothing.
They're just making stuff up now.
Against the Young Bucks and Ricky Starks and Powerhouse Hobbs. It was a really good match. In our playlist, we have the promo, like the promo video for it. We have the match itself, and then we got a really nice exclusive promo afterwards where Keith Lee dedicated the win to one of his childhood friends who's currently battling cancer. So what a great freaking moment for the two of them, for what their life outside of AEW. And I'm pretty sure I'll find the count, but this is like the quickest a WWE superstar has won a title in Swerve's case.
I think it was, I want to say I saw second quickest, and
okay.
it's only a matter of days. I can't remember.
I have it. 129 days between Swerve's debut and his AEW title win. So 129 days.
Do you know who's quicker if it was second quickest? Because
I'm not sure.
Well, who cares? Because we're not talking about that. It might have actually been FTR, maybe even coming in, winning the tag championships. Don't quote me on that. But man, either way, like the fact that they are in this position as these tag team champions, I mean, I don't even know where to start, because obviously we appreciated them in WWE and what they're doing. But Mari, we've also talked a lot about AEW and its diversity or lack thereof. And I mean, it just feels so good. Number one, to see, maybe I'll call it number two, to see like two black men in this spot in AEW, which is such a white company overall. But also number one, to see these two in particular for all that they are in their stories. And Keith Lee really underscored that with his promo and with his story, and just reminding us like a year ago, he was on his deathbed last year.
Yeah.
And the fact that he's even alive, that like we talk about Edge and not being able to wrestle and all of that, but like the fact that Keith Lee is alive is a miracle, really, and it feels that much better to watch him each and every time he's out there because of it.
Yeah, exactly.
Oof. Yeah.
Oh, I thought you were gonna keep going.
No.
So exactly, like Keith Lee, such a major talent, and we were on this podcast and devastated when we heard that he was being let go, and I just love this moment for him. I mean, they are the first black tag team to win that AEW Tag Team Championships. I was reading that they're saying like the win might be invalid. While I just double check this, Solomon.
What?
Yeah.
I was reading the same thing.
Okay. What? So what's going on, Solomon? What do you think?
Yeah.
They were just saying that it was the wrong person who was actually pinned. And saying that it should have been
it looks like
Hobbs,
maybe
Hobbs or one of the Young Bucks. I don't know.
Yeah.
But we'll see how they handle it. But let me say this: to see how Keith Lee has been used in AEW versus how he was used in the WWE,
main
it kind of breaks my heart. Right, main roster. Okay, well, kind of breaks my heart because like he is the prototypical big man. Like he's not a Vince body guy,
right?
Which is weird within itself. But he's a huge dude. He's like this imposing figure, and he comes at you from so many different types of angles. He's thoughtful. He's articulate. He can
fly around.
Right. He can literally do like the head scissors takeovers and planchas and all type of foods out of the ring, and it's like it's nuts. He puts on like every time him and Dijakovic are in the ring, they give you a 5-star banger. Like from the indies to NXT to the main roster. Like, it's all money. And so to see how he was used in on the main roster versus how he was used or how it's being used in AEW is heartbreaking to me.
Mm-hmm.
That's Keith Lee. But then I take into account like Swerve Strickland.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking about where I saw him from the first time. It was not AEW. It was not NXT. It was Lucha Underground.
Oh yes, okay. I
And
thought you were
I
going to do
remembered,
MLW. Mm-hmm.
yeah, it was Lucha Underground and him as Kill Shot.
Yeah,
And, you know, the storytelling that they did there with him versus AR Fox, you know, talking about how one person got left, overseas. I mean, just a weird type of story.
yeah.
But they were able to tell it so effectively in the ring. And Killshot didn't say anything. He literally did not talk for like a year and a half in Lucha Underground. And it just shows you that there's so much storytelling that is nonverbal, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you see like how much gravitas and charisma he has in AEW, and you're like, how can you mess up this guy? He's an amazing worker in the ring, right? He's gonna give you a match every time. Like him, that's not a concern. But he just has so much swagger.
Yeah.
You want to cheer for him, or you want to be close to him. You want to be like in his orbit.
Mhm.
And for the WWE not to be able to figure, these things out, it's really heartbreaking. And it's heartbreaking as a Black person watching it, because I see this more often than not when it comes to their Black characters. The New Day is over only because the New Day found a way to be over. It was not because of the WWE writing.
Exactly.
Right.
It's not because they were done any favors. Big E was the champion for literally less than 2 months, and every match that he had when he was a champion, he lost. It's not because the WWE is doing their Black wrestlers any favors. It's because they're finding a way or making a way. And so when you see these types of, like, I don't want to call it abuses, but I want to call it missteps in how talent is being used from company to company. It makes me glad that they have found a way to find success and find achievement in AEW. I hope that continues. And I hope other Black wrestlers continue to be offered chances to spotlight their talent. But then I hope it's a wake-up call for the WWE, because they're letting money walk out of the door. Swerve Strickland is money. This dude can do everything. Keith Lee is money. Brock Lesnar wants to wrestle this man. He wants this man. Roman wants this man. Give them what they want. Acknowledge me.
But that's the thing. This is like the thing, because like even with Hit Row, it's not even like they ruined Hit Row. They just fired them. And like they only had a few weeks on SmackDown, but like they had so much potential and they were so over, like literally. And I think I mentioned this to you, Mari, at one point, the week that they were released, at least the week that BFAB was released. I was in Washington, DC, where I lived, walking down the freaking street, and I hear someone on a bike playing the hit the Hit Row theme song, like on their bike going down the street. And you don't have those encounters with wrestling this way now. And that was such a hit. Like I was listening to that all the time at that time. It's probably not even still on Spotify at this point, because they might have gotten rid of it. But like the thing that I want to say is that, they're so talented, they're so incredible. There are probably people, Mari and I get this a lot when it comes to the show Big Brother and the coverage. Why do you have to talk about race? Why does it matter that they're Black? And it's like, it matters for so many reasons that we've kind of underscored, but it matters because time and time again, there are these incredibly talented people who are more talented than the people who are still signed, who are getting contracts all of it, who are being let go and misused and thrown out and questioned when they ask for, in the case of Sasha Banks or Mercedes Vernado, like $30,000, and we keep beating them down. And it's like race is a major factor in this. If that was a white man in that spot, things might be, it would be different in their experiences in the world. And it's just funny to me. I'm going on this rant, even though like no one came for us, Mari, to say this, but I'm going on this rant just to say, like, if you are someone who is tired of hearing us talk about these things and talk about race, well, one, this is not the wrestling podcast for you, but also, like, we are freaking Black. Like, this is a constantly thing that we have to think about. So if you are tired, imagine how we feel when we're actually on the receiving end of the bullshit that comes out of so much of this. And I just wanted to say that, just to underscore it, in case, to get ahead of the people who might have issues.
And these things become important because it is a reflection of Black portrayal, right?
Yes.
How are Black people allowed to express themselves through art, to exist in life, to be received through others? Like, how are we cast? How are we written? How are we interpreted? Right? These are all matters of choice. And so, we had Crime Time. Y'all remember Crime Time?
I remember Crime Time.
Why are two Black men in a faction or in a group called Crime Time? Right? Why is this the only portrayal that seems plausible and acceptable in the consciousness of white imaginations? And so Keith Lee doesn't fit a mold because he's a big guy, but he's smart and he's articulate. And so he does not match what should be the modality of Blackness in the consciousness of white folks. And so it makes folks uncomfortable. What do we do with these Black characters? Like Xavier Woods has a PhD.
Love it.
Right. How is he allowed to express himself through art and artistry, like to exist as a Black man, to exist as a person experiencing a wide variety of feelings and expressions, right? These things matter. Blackness matters because of the way that it is interpreted, understood, and thought through in the white consciousness. And so Black folks are then harmed dually because we got to act in a way that makes you comfortable, but then that is also inauthentic to ourselves. And so this is the generation of wrestlers that is pushing back against those narratives. I don't want to be Crime Time. I don't want to be a pimp. I don't want to be a hustler. I don't want to be a drug dealer. I don't want to be in all of these other things. Allow me to be a Black person that is fully fleshed out, fully formed, and that has a wide range and wealth of humanity.
Yeah.
That's why.
And we talk about all the time with people saying like, oh, Big E can't be the champion and still like act goofy and stuff. He has to like, act all mean and mad. It's like y'all did not like him when he was mean and mad, and it just sucked the charisma out of him. Like, we don't need to change their characters wholly just so that they can be accepted as Black characters, as Black men. And so it was ridiculous because on our show, when Hit Row was at the height of NXT, we would bring people on who have never watched wrestling a day in their life, and they would say their favorite clips that they watched that week was Hit Row. Consistently, week after week after week after week, it was like Hit Row, Hit Row. And Hit Row and Swerve were presented very well in NXT. And then the main roster happens, and they fire B-Fab all of a sudden. We still don't know what happened with the rest of the group. I'll have to like listen to it, but I know Frank AJ Francis was has been talking about it. I think it's something like they tried to stick up for her. They tried to get back or something like that.
Yeah, and there's some stuff with that. Just to mention that quickly, from what I remember hearing I think he's mostly been the one who's talked about
Yeah,
it,
him,
where
yeah.
there was the week where they decided to fire or to release BFAB, but they didn't let them know that she wasn't coming on the road with them. And so they're like, oh, that's weird. BFAB doesn't have a ticket to come with us to this house show or whatever, or to Raw. Like, that's weird. And he called the office asking, like, someone, I think this is an oversight, they didn't give BFAB her plane tickets.
Yeah,
and they were basically like, mind your business, don't ask about this, is how he talked about it. And I think that might have rubbed them the wrong way, because apparently they got yelled at for overstepping. And it seemed political. I mean, it was definitely political because it wasn't performance related.
Exactly.
And then there was the other thing, of course, where, you know, AJ Francis put out the RHAP, which was offensive in relation to Jinder Mahal, which you might remember vaguely, but it was like using like more traditional, like I think Punjabi beats or Indian beats. I'm not the best person to speak to that, but it was, they didn't love that either. So there were things that happened, but I think it was definitely an overreaction, and something I talk about a lot, which is how, because I've experienced this, like you could do like everything right, and then you do like one thing wrong, and then they throw the book at you, and you're like, damn, you were waiting to throw me out with the trash, weren't you? And that's kind of what it felt like with them.
Yeah, that's what it kind of sounds like too. And from what we've learned about the backstage, like how backstage works since the walkout, since the multiple investigations of Vince McMahon's sexual misconduct, it does sound like a lot of people are just kind of throwing their weight around back there. And if you know, stuff with Leo, remember Leo Rush, like everything that happened with Leo Rush, like a lot of feels like a lot of like trying to humbling of the black talent. Like,
you know what? I'm sorry, Mari. Let me just say this. F Vince McMahon for using the N-word on WWE TV.
Oh, yeah.
Like, what, 2005, let's call it. I don't even want to go into it, but just want to remind people that happened.
Jeez,
to Booker T.
I cannot. To Booker T.
Was it to Booker T? Was it to Booker T? I think it was.
No comment.
No. It wasn't Booker T. It was something else ridiculous. I don't even know who it was at this point. But he was wearing a do-rag at that point. It was.
I remember that.
Problematic, and he still has his job and still does this. But I guess we put up with that.
Okay. All right. Well, that's it for the shoot segment. That's what that turned into.
Yeah, I know. I
love that. It has been so great talking to both of you guys. Any final thoughts, Solomon, of what we've seen this week in wrestling?
FTR is one of the greatest tag teams to ever exist.
Yes. And they're with the ROH Tag Team Champions, right? Have they?
And I don't know where MJF is. That's the only thing that right. Yeah, I don't know where MJF is. I'm always interested to see how those kind of stories are going to tie together. So that should be interesting.
Yes. All right. Well, hopefully we can have you on again, and you can talk to us about AEW. Get us up to speed on what's going on in AEW. Matt, how about you? Any last words?
Oh, well,
just about the week. About the week and the
highlights. The week. Good times. I mean, honestly, isn't it all about the friends we make along the way? This was a great conversation. So I don't have any thoughts on that. I'm just happy that we had this conversation, and it was a really informative one. And I have to thank you, Solomon, for just underscoring things and communicating them in a way that I hope is really clear to people. And I hope that, I mean, I know that people aren't necessarily tuning in to learn, but we always like to educate. And so thank you for contributing to that this week.
Well, thank you for having me. I've definitely appreciated being here and then interacting and talking with you about the business of professional wrestling.
Yes. Solomon, plugs, tell the people where they can find you, or where you want to be found, should we say.
You can find me all over the internet under Solomon Missouri. I did not know that we would be using our real names when people made social media, so I put my real name out there, but I didn't know we were using our made-up names. So Solomon Missouri all over the web, on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, whatever. You can just search me. You can find me there. Thank you all for following me. Thank you all for engaging with me. I appreciate it.
Of course, no problem. And we'll definitely put all your social media links into the podcast description. Matt, where can the people find you? What have you been up to this week?
Yeah, well, you can find me at Matt Scott DW on the social media, and easy ways to just kind of check out all the things I'm going to plug in a second is just check out the link in my bio, because I linked to the Wrestling RHAPup and a bunch of other things. So you can find me here, obviously, with Mari each and every week. Never miss a week. You can find me talking about the show Survivor over on the Pride Has Spoken podcast on Rob Has a Podcast. So that's also linked in my bio at Matt Scott GW. Pod Friends, where I interview people in this Rob Has a Podcast RHAP community. This week, I'm interviewing Shannon Gus, who is known for her coverage of International Survivor. And so that was a very, very fun conversation that will come out on Sunday, July 17th. So check that out. Sunday night, especially, is when those drop video and audio. And then finally, speaking of Survivor, Solomon, you are so real, because like you are, I'm just like taking this is beautiful. If you're not watching the video, by the way, this man has some great driving skills. I don't want to distract you. I'm going to stop talking. So you can watch me on Survivor Philadelphia, a fan-made game of Survivor, season 2, Head versus Heart. It premieres on Tuesday. Woo! July 19th, 8 p.m. Baby, tune in. Don't laugh at me too much. I'm doing my best. And I hope that you enjoyed it along the way. Again, Matt Scott GW, all the things, Big Brother, whatever. Mari, where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Mari Talks Too Much. That's 2 like the number 2. Of course, every week here with Matt, giving you the highlights of the week in wrestling. And then, of course, me and Sarah Carradine bring True Crime Tuesdays to RHAP with our show Crime Scene, where we go over a different true crime docu property or documentary, and we give our ratings and our recommendations. This past week, we just dropped the Web of Make Believe episode featuring Brooklyn Zed. We had a great conversation with them. So go to robhasawebsite.com/crime feed in order to subscribe. And you can follow us on Twitter at Crime Scene RHAP. That's Crime SEEN RHAP, to follow us and figure out what our next property is. Next week, just a little, I give y'all a little tidbit here. We will be dropping a highly requested episode reviewing the documentary Girl in the Picture on Netflix. So if you want to go on this wild, twisty world with us, covering this documentary, watch that documentary on Netflix, and then listen to us as we discuss it with an amazing guest, LaTanya Starks. All right. Other than that, please rate, review, and subscribe to the Wrestling RHAPup at robhasawebsite.com/wrestling feed. You can email us at wrestling@robhasawebsite.com. And of course, tweet us using hashtag Wrestling RHAPup.
Please.
And yeah, from me, Matt, and Solomon, remember, have a great week. Bye. Wrestling is for everybody, but not all wrestling is for everyone. See ya.
That's right. Hit our theme music.
Throw 'em up, lay it down just like Matt and Mari. Wrestling RHAPup's gonna make it sorry. Feeling like The Rock, cause I'm driving in Ferraris. And we coming every week and it's feeling like a party. Will a Ric Flair, showing out like Bianca Belair, Best podcast, flush it in the air, Roman Reigns and we win it, don't care, No cap. Throw 'em up, lay it down just like Matt and Mari. Wrestling RHAPup's gonna make it sorry. Feeling like The Rock, cause I'm driving in Ferraris. And we coming every week and it's feeling like a party.